Get out of our club. Get out of our club. You greedy bastards. Get out of our club. Message loud and clear from Old Trafford people. Welcome to the United Real Therapy, the headquarters of the Glazer Out campaign. Big up to every one of you who turned up today. Big up to every single one of you who turned up today. Joined by Irfan. Irfan was at the protest today. Big up Sophia. Big up everybody who turned up. We got Oli Bumbaye. We got Mundo, the Mind to Mundo here, guys. I want to also give a massive shout out, man, like Jamie Carragher. Jamie Carragher today showed me who he is, man. He stood out for the people, for the supporters, and we know what the media narrative is going to be, to demonize, because the media narrative is there to keep the status quo. That's what the establishment is about of this country. The people who run this country. Any disturbance to that, they demonize people. And I don't care. First of all, anybody who got hurt, I'm sorry that happened. Nobody is about hurting anybody. But I'm so proud of the United fans today. I'm so proud of every one of them. Mundo, talk to me. You saw the pictures.
Yeah, man. I mean, big up to all those fans who went down there. The vast majority that protested peacefully, got the game cancelled, postponed, whatever it may be. Yeah, big up to those guys, man. But the thing is, yeah, the mainstream media already, like, if you switch on the news now, all you're seeing is people throwing barriers and the police, fighting the police and whatever else. And it's just the way they try and twist it. And even the Premier League have released a statement about violence and this, that, and the other. They want to vilify everybody. But as you said, Jamie Carragher, big respect to him, because he said, nah, man, the fans that came into the ground, that came onto the pitch, the ones that I see protesting, were doing it peacefully and respectfully. So big up to him. I don't know what Souness is on, right? No idea what that guy's talking about. But Gary Neville, Carragher, to an extent Roy Keane, saying it as it is. Yeah, man, big up to all those fans. And the thing is now that you turn the heat up, you can't now turn off the flame. You've got to turn those flames higher. This needs to intensify, not get less, get even more. Because the only way these guys are going to feel the pain is in their pocket. And the way they feel the pain in their pocket is when the fans are allowed back in the ground, leave the stadium empty. Because Sky don't want to broadcast empty stadiums anymore. They've had enough. When all the other grounds are full and our stadium's empty, everyone's outside the stadium protesting, that's not attractive for any broadcaster. That's not attractive for any sponsor. And what we need to do is we need to make our brand toxic. So to the extent where they have to sell. It's the only way to get rid of them. You want mute,
mute.
Bumba, yeah, obviously you were not there today, but give us your view, the pictures that you saw, and how that's been reported through. I know that you watch different television from different parts of the world. Can you give us a little bit of flavor of what you saw? How is it being reported?
Well, I mean, how it's been reported is the usual, There's vilification, there's twisting of it. I mean, you went to the protest today, Irfan. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what it was really like? Because what we've been seeing is what they want to show you, which is, something that looks like thuggery, drunkenness, violent, high tempo. That's what it comes across like. So maybe you should shed some light on what it was really like there today. What were the people like? What was the atmosphere like? What happened?
I'll let Irfan go. I got there really early, so I'll let Irfan go.
Yeah, I got there about 2:10. And, me, I get very tearful when I see working class people, ordinary people, protesting to keep part of their culture alive. It doesn't happen to me any kind of protest, anti-war, etc. And I saw it the same way. And I got there, and a woman with a young family with their baby, must have been 6 months old, was behind me. Yeah, So it was a very, very peaceful, but very sort of, sort of a joyous vibe. There was no badness, no bad vibe, nothing. And I walked up and down the protest, up and around, and all I saw was a lot of happy fans who were together because they had a common ground of anger towards the Glazers. Everyone, yeah. And everyone was singing songs. Okay, people had flares and stuff like that, and then people were climbing up the sides, etc. They were all small acts of defiance. Now, the main act of defiance clearly was getting in the ground, yeah, but that's a small part of it. This is a protest. Protests can be civilized, but protests can also get out of hand a little bit. But if you talk about what the newspapers were reporting, they're looking for an opportunity to rubbish it, because look what was at stake. There was so much at stake here. Never mind just for the Glazers, for Sky and everybody else. They lost the game. There was no game to play, So I listened to 5 Live. I listened to all the mainstream media trying to kick it in. But believe you me, right? We were there. We mingled with lots of people. And lots of people were there, all types, black, brown, green, whatever, all there, young, old. Yeah, lots of young people were there. And it was 99% very, very peaceful. I mean, this thing about throwing beer cans and that, they were throwing beer cans at each other, having a laugh. It was a joke. They weren't there to cause a riot, etc. And the fact that the police just didn't know what to do, to tell you the truth. They were wondering what we're going to do, because they were sort of taken by how how partisan the whole vibe was. It was a very sort of together vibe. I mean, Nuruddin, you saw it yourself. It was a very, very together vibe that was. So I was very proud. And when the result came out, the fact that the game was postponed, that was the thing everybody wanted. That gave the world a message to say, look, when this can't happen anymore. 16 years of this, and I tried to explain to people, when you talk about protest, I mean, just think of the suffragettes. Emily Davidson, 1913, at the Epsom Derby, one of the biggest horse races in the calendar. She runs in front of the horse and she dies. Just to get women to vote. This is protest. This is not like, this idea of being civilized, etc. It was very, very civilized. But believe me, protests can be the opposite. But nothing is achieved without real protest. Nothing's ever achieved. They don't give away power unless you protest and hurt them, like the way it happened today. So I'm very, very
okay. Well, how was your? You were there and you saw it up close and personal.
Yep.
There was nothing from the fans that you say perhaps in the next one we shouldn't do. And how were the police? Did the police deserve some credit today? Were they good? Were they bad? How was the interaction with regards to the protest?
Well, I mean, to tell you the truth, there wasn't very many police there, really. I think I counted 30 police officers, maybe max. There wasn't many.
We saw a lot of more than 30 on a lot of the broadcasts. I don't know how long you were there.
But Oli Mumbai, that was at the very end. That was at the end when they thought, right, hang on, the game's getting closer. So they started bringing in divisions from different areas to sort of think, how are we going to quell the protest now? How were
the police?
Well, the police were, I mean, we didn't see the point where they started going, to be, aggressive and to say how we're going to get rid of them. I mean, I saw one incident where they grabbed a guy and started punching him in the head, but I saw that on Twitter as I was leaving, So it sort of.
You saw that live?
No, I was leaving the ground and I was following on Twitter to see what's for streaming, and I saw a picture of a kid being grabbed by the police, and there's one police guy punching in the head. Look, like you get the odd protester who was looking for a bit of a fight. You also get you get a policeman that's also looking for a fight too. It works both ways. Protests are a fascinating thing to watch. Honestly, they are. But the thing is, what I see is most people in society are not used to these type of things. They're not used to them at all. Me and Nuruddin, we've been to many of these different things, so we're used to it. We sort of know what to expect.
So I'll break it down for you. We got there early. I got there about nearly 1:30. I think, or just after 1:30 we got there. It was a very strategic protest. There was strategy to it. There was a lot of thought behind this. Obviously, there were fans that made sure that the coaches didn't leave the one of the hotels. The Lowry. That's where Man United, Liverpool stay. So that was the strategic. The other fans were on some Matt Busby way. And everybody gathered there. Everybody bought. It was almost kind of a carnival flavor, like when everybody was getting there.
It was, yeah.
One united voice to get the Glazers out. There was banners. There was the biggest banners you'll ever see in your life. There was placards given out. There were thousands. I'm estimating around 10,000. This continued for a while till everybody got there. Then the chanting started. Obviously, get the Glazers out. What do we want? Glazers out. And the police just stayed in the periphery. There wasn't, and exactly what Irfan said. By the time he got there was about 30 police. What the police did, they put a lot of red barriers on some Busby Way. So they put barriers, thinking that the barriers would hold people. And also, a lot of people then went to the Munich, where the Munich tunnel. Yeah, the Munich tunnel. That's where a lot of people went because people wanted to make the point what the Big Six and the Glazers have been spitting on the tradition and the history of Man United. And that's where the main vocal part, the central part of the protest outside the stadium became. Yeah, then there were fans that were trying to get into the ground because they wanted to get their voices heard. But what I see from the media is nothing short of what they always do. Is demonize the working class people. When the working class people have had enough, there's only so much people can push. I bigged up Carragher before. I want to big up Roy Keane and stuff because Roy Keane literally summed up. It was Man United have just been fans. We've been protesting, and now you look on Twitter, and other fans are like, "Well, where were you when you were winning?" In 2005, I went to the protest. I was at university at that time. I came home for that weekend just to go to the protest, right? And it was absolute chaos because that's when the Glazers. That's the only time where the whole of the family of the Glazers came to that stadium. Again, after we won European Cup, we were going back-to-back European Champions League finals. At 2010, there's another campaign, Green and Gold, further intensified to 2011. So when people are saying when we were winning leagues and going back-to-back Champions Leagues, we were protesting against this, but nobody was listening. Today, I commend every one of Man United fans who got on the pitch, every Man United fans who was outside the Lowry stopping the buses, every Man United fan who was outside. What people don't understand is that obviously it was you can see that nobody's allowed out. Mainly the pubs are mainly closed. People can go, but people have been locked in their houses for a whole year. And there were people as the time got on, were going to the shops to buy a beer. Of course, they're gonna have a couple of drinks. People were throwing a couple of beer cans and that. People who climbed up to pieces of the stadium were chucking beer at people, and then they were drinking and chucking it back. It was a very jovial kind of atmosphere. But as this got on, as the game was supposed to kick off, obviously the Sky and the authorities, the Trafford Council, the Sky Television, the police and the local authorities thinking, oh, people are losing money. We need to clear the fans. So what then? The backup police, what you see on the news is those backup police who just jumped in and thinking, right, everybody needs to go now. And then obviously what are you going to do when you got thousands of fans out there? You're going to antagonize them by telling people, get behind the barriers. And no, people were not having it. I'm sorry, people were not having it. And I'm sorry to say this. Protest is meant to be uncomfortable. It is a disturbance of the norm. What Man United fans did today was civil disobedience. I'm sorry to upset you. All those plastic fans, so-called Man United fans on Twitter going, we wanted to see the game. Well, you know what? You know where to... I don't want to even get... You know what? I don't want to lose my temper. I don't want to start effing and blinding. But you know where to go. That's all I will say. I'll be polite as that. I'll say you know where to go. And the rest of the fans, who supporting other clubs, who were coming out saying, oh, why? They weren't protesting. We were protesting, but nobody wanted to hear us because we were doing it peaceful and nobody was hearing it. 95% or 98% of that protest today was peaceful. It was jovial. It was celebration of fans coming together saying, no. And it was strategic in the way that we wanted this game to be called off. That's what happened. And fans wanted it. Fans have had enough. And that's what happened. And I'm sorry if it makes you feel uncomfortable. But this is a demonization. Middle classes, super middle class people in the media, right, tell lies about working class people. That's how the status quo is kept in this country. That is what it's about. I'm sorry to widen this, but I can't explain it without explaining it, how media framing works. Instead of saying today, and you know what? I never thought I'll say it, but I watched a little clip of the Sky, how the Sky News reported it. And Sky News reported it to say the fans have had enough. They didn't go down the demonization side to demonize. But I've got a couple of words. Today we found out who Pat Neville is. Pat Neville used to be a footballer. He used to be kind of a guy who was intellectual kind of footballer. He was down. He understood fan culture. Today he got found out for what he was. And there's a guy called Jermaine Jenas. Both of them should be ashamed of themselves. Both of them should be ashamed of themselves. And the reason why they should be ashamed of themselves, they are so out of touch. They were ex-footballers who are now working media, making decent money, right? And they've gone so out of touch, they don't have a clue what's going on at Man United. Let alone what's going on how much football fans have had sick to death on what these big six try to do, which basically is to ruin football as we know it. And they show themselves. So anybody out there demonizing, know where that's coming from. That they're the bootlickers of the establishment. That's what they're there to do. That is what happens. There is no one big conspiracy where all the people who make money in this country and who are at the top, who run this country, are in one room. No, they all know each other's interests align. They all want to keep the status quo. I'm sorry to say, but today that status quo was cancelled. The status quo was disturbed today, and that's what protest is about, people. And Souness, don't even get me started on Souness. Souness nearly started a war in Istanbul, an absolute civil war. When he was the Fenerbahce manager, he took a flag in a derby, Galatasaray, Fenerbahce, and smacked it in the middle of the stadium. What happened to that Souness? Today, that Souness is a establishment hawk. That's what he is. Saying, oh, Man United fans are only protesting because they're not successful. Yeah, you don't have a proper structure. These guys have took nearly 2 billion out of this club. 2 billion. They might have put 1 billion in, but they put 1 billion and put a banker in charge, and the banker got 2 of his banker mates to become in charge of the football club to run that club. That's the reason why we've been wanting them out for 16 years. Everybody knows. Put your jokes aside. Oh, when have you started supporting Norwich? No, that's the Newton Heath colours. Man United Football Club was set up by workers. Newton Heath, railway workers.
Right, take a breath.
Not easy to take a breath, though, I'll admit. You know, if you were there, you would have seen it. Because if you love United...
No, look, we've all been, since we were young, yeah, all of us on this channel, we have protested. We have been to many protests. Yeah, and some protests have got a bit funny. Some protests have been exactly as the establishment wants it. It's no surprise that the protest is vilified because, as Nuruddin said, they want to retain the status quo because they are all part of the same hypocrisy, and it's all about the Benjamins. But with regards to Dino, you are one of the first people about 1 million years ago that I remember buying a yellow and green scarf, and you explained to me exactly what this is all about. And this was about 12, 13, maybe more years ago. So you're very consistent. And I think a lot of the fan base has always been consistent with regards to their unhappiness with the Glazers at the helm of Man United, because the way that they have gone about their business leaves a need for a lot better parity between commerce and real football. And this is not new, the protests. This is what everyone should understand. But the way in which they tried to break off and form the Super League was the straw that broke the camel's back. And it's inevitable at a certain point. And they can only blame themselves for being at the fore of that. And people that are not Man United fans, I don't know how they feel about their own clubs, like Liverpool or Arsenal and stuff. I only know about Manchester United. And I'm not going to say it on here, but you guys know how I became a United fan. And I fell in love with Man United when I read about the history of Manchester United. And I watched the documentaries just in a leisurely way, and I just fell in love with the club. And the way that the club is being directed and utilized by these guys, it's taken away from the real essential reason why I love Man U, and probably takes away from why I am very optimistic all the time. But I think with regards to the protest, the only thing I would say about these things is that today, definitely, I did not think the game would be cancelled. So I have to say, I'm really impressed. Big up to the fans. But this has to be non-cooperative, non-violent civil disobedience. I'm not going to take a step backwards, officer, but I'm not here to throw cans or punch you or nothing. And the reason I'm not taking a step back is because this is what I want, and this is why I want it. That's how this protest has to always be. And as Mighty Mundo was saying, when the stadiums can be filled back up again, that stadium needs to remain as empty as possible. That megastore needs to remain as empty as possible. All these little victories will culminate in the type of pressure which might give you some bargaining power. I'm not delusional. Maybe nothing might change, but you'll never know if you don't try. And today was definitely a victory for the fans, and not only for football, not only for the working class of football. Today was a victory for the little guy who in this society always gets trod on or vilified for simply saying, look, we are unhappy with this, and we've been unhappy with this for a long, long time. And you've seen why we're unhappy, because football nearly got taken away, not from just us, but from other big money men that only care about money. And they're jumping on the bandwagon of our backlash against that thing. So big up today. If it continues, please, non-violent, non-cooperative civil disobedience.
The thing is about the protest. I've seen it on the coverage today. People are talking about the Super League, etc., etc. This is more than the Super League. Yes, the Super League is part of it, but these owners have been raping and pillaging our club for the last 16 years. And when you see how Chelsea and Man City operate, Man City are our biggest rivals, and they've got owners who want to build their infrastructure, improve East Manchester. They're winning trophies. They've got a football structure. They've got a proper wage structure. They go about their business the right way. It kills me to see that and even admit that on this channel, that Manchester City is better run than Manchester United. And when you go back to the start of the Glazer ownership, we were light years ahead of Man City, light years. And they've overtaken us because of these owners. And the thing is, with the Super League, one thing that we have to, our owners were front and centre of that attempted coup of football. That is why the fans have gone absolutely berserk, because they've shown it. If you didn't know it before, you know it now, what they're about. They absolutely showed their true colours, and they've come in, and they didn't just try and take our club away from us. They tried to take football away from us, full stop. Right? So, Oli Bumay is right. Peaceful protest, but it has to continue until these guys have gone. And those fans out there who are saying, not just Man United fans, but rival fans saying, oh, it's just protest, it's not going to work. Well, Liverpool fans got rid of their dodgy American owners, didn't they, through protest and kicking off before FSG bought them. As soon as he's talking about Manchester United fans, if this was Liverpool fans, Anfield would have been on fire, right? Anfield would have been up in flames. So Liverpool fans, Man United fans, we are the most passionate fans in the whole country because of our clubs are institutions. Institutions, the two most successful clubs in the country. You can't come to our country and try and take that away. You can't do it. You can't go to somebody else's country and try and impose your ways. You can't come and try and impose an American football structure on European football. You can't. Same way we can't go to American sport and try and infiltrate and put in place European rules in American sports, they would never have it. All the fans would be up in arms. So the sheer arrogance to think that they can come and do that is one thing. And the second thing is that, yes, there are things that need to be changed in football, definitely. UEFA, FIFA, there's issues with them, definitely. There's issues with club ownership. There's all these issues. If they cared about the fans, there would have been some form of consultation with the fans, with the footballers, with the managers, whatever, whoever's involved in the game. They didn't. They tried to steal it. They tried to steal the game. They got caught out like the thieves and robbers and crooks that they are. And now they've got to pay the price. Because if I go out there and try and steal something, I feel the full force of the law. And the law for our club is the fans, and they need to feel the full force. That's it.
But you know what they call the fans? You know what they refer to the fans in this country as? Legacy fans.
Yeah.
How insulting is that? Legacy fans.
No, think about this though. Let's say we accept that title, legacy fans. No problem. It is exactly that legacy that makes this an institution which you pissed on or tried to piss on. So it's your own fault why this revolt is happening in the way in which it is. If this Super League had never gone ahead, even if they had come out and said, Dino, Irfan, Mundo, all the fans, we are thinking about doing this Super League. What do you think? And we said no, and they didn't do it. There'd be no protest. There'd be nothing. We'd crack on, and it wouldn't have come to this. This is happening to me because that is the straw that broke the camel's back. And the reason we are pissed off is because when you look at the history of what's gone before, of the tragedies, the defeats, the rising from the... all these things that are all around the stadium. There are statues and sculptures, icons of these things all around the stadium. It's what Manchester United is built on. And they spat in the face of that, and this is why it's gone berserk like this. But I'm not sure. This will be a game of cat and mouse now, yeah? And we have to remain civil disobedience. That has to be the strategy. You don't want to give anybody bullets to shoot you down. And the people that are not on board with this are not on board with this. That's the way it is. Some people are always going to go down the civil route. If you're going to do a protest, and it's going to be, look, you can have a protest, but it's got to be really nice with flowers in that corner there. That's not really a protest anymore. That's bullshit. A protest is, we are here because we have a genuine grievance and we are here to disrupt proceedings without violence, but we are here to be a nuisance and disrupt proceedings, and this is why. So come to the negotiating table, and what we've got to think here is, look, the Glazers, they're not just going to walk out. They want to sell the club. So I'm going into, we've discussed the I want to go into the next phase now. They want to sell the club. So who they sell it to, my hand is on my heart until we see if we get to that, and then who. Because it could be worse. I said this last time. Now, going forward, one thing that I've got to acknowledge is this Premier League now in today's world is one of the best leagues and the toughest leagues in the world because of the money that has been pumped into it. And these guys that have come with the money, you have now a top 6. You have a really nice title race. You have multiple teams that can challenge for this thing. The fixture list every year in this country, a third of it is solid 50-50 games. When you think about 6 or 7 of the teams are all in similar ballparks, give or take. They all have money. They can all buy top managers, top players, big wages. And this is why this competition is meant. So this isn't necessarily a protest for me against money is evil, we don't want it. There has to be a renegotiation of the power sharing and the decision making that has to consider the consensus of fans before it acts and behaves. This is quintessentially where I believe the problem, the primary part of the problem lies. Because if these owners go, and then we get another owner, and it's another bubble in his hand. This is the issue. The money has to stay, and it is a business to an extent, I get that. But the problem with these owners is how they tried to do it, and their tenure, there's been a real disconnect between the ratio of commercial focus and football focus, infrastructure of football, really long-term planning, investing from the heart into the team, into the stadium, to keep this club where it rightfully deserves to be. And this is what we've got to be realistically looking at going forward now. It's about the redistribution of power, the restructuring of the power balances. Because what this thing showed was it came very close for them setting this thing up. And that was a little sample taster of what can happen with the current status quo. And this is why I believe your Carragers and your Nevilles have come out and they saw it for what it really was. They saw the end game. And that's why when people say they wanted to take football away from us, and that there, man, is a bridge too far. Because look, whether you're a casual fan or just whatever, you know, people historically in Manchester and Liverpool and Newcastle, these working class places, live for football. They go and work a bullshit job all week and they want to decompress and blow off steam and enjoy their team. That is their outlet. Have a few cans or not and enjoy their team.
Exactly.
And they were stepping on those toes. So this can't go.
Of course it can't.
This is what,
This can't go. Hiya, Rachel. That nice one. Thank you for joining us. Give us your view. How's the media been reporting from your side? What have you seen on Twitter? What have you seen on the news? Have you caught any of it? Obviously, the protests. I say legacy fans 1, the Glazers 0.
You know what? I want to big up all the peaceful protesters because I thought they did a great job. I don't condone the violence that happened. I think it was one of the. I don't know who it was actually that got injured. I saw the mark on his face. Didn't look very nice. I don't agree with that or the throwing of bottles and whatnot. But they were a minority, and I think people are overreacting with it. If I'm honest with you, because no matter what you do, whether it's a protest, even if you go to watch a football match, there's always someone that's causing trouble. To tarnish everyone with the same brush is not really fair at all. I think the way the media are reporting it is astonishing. Like I read someone say that that it was an embarrassment. Like Manchester United fans embarrassed the club, and the fact that there was no security embarrassed the entire footballing world. It's an exaggeration. It really is. Like, yeah, okay, someone got hurt. There were a few people that were causing trouble, but overall, to say it's an embarrassment, it's just an exaggeration. And I'm sorry, Liverpool fans as well. If you want your 3 points, take them. Take your 3 points. It doesn't bother us. We don't need them anyway. We're happy. We're safe in second place anyway. Nothing's going to change. If you need them that much, just take them. Honestly, it's just a joke.
The thing about protest is this has a dual purpose. Number one, it's telling our current owners what we think about them. Number two, just to go back on a point Oli Bomaye said about hand on his hat and who may take over, it's telling any prospective new owners, don't come and mess around with our club, because if you do, you're going to get the same treatment. That's why it's so important to send this message. You're right about the reporting. It's so over the top and exaggerated. The minor scuffles and the little bits and pieces that went wrong are blown up and presented as though that was the entire protest. If you switch on ITV News and BBC, all you're seeing is people throwing railings and the police charging at people, and that is apparently the protest. And then you've got them speaking to stewards at the ground saying, they're confused, with no idea what's going on. We don't know how these fans got on the football pitch, etc., etc. So it's for the people who went there to share the real story. And the other thing is, you have to ruffle some feathers when you protest, because if the game wasn't postponed today, the only people who would have known about that protest are the fans at the ground, fans like ourselves, and anyone, you know, who switches on the news or whatever. But now the whole world knows about the protest because everyone who tuned in to watch that game, Manchester United against Liverpool, which is one of the biggest derbies in world football, who've tuned in to watch that game, wherever they may be, whether it be the Asian audience, America, Africa, African continent, wherever they've tuned in from, they've not watched the game, and the only thing they've seen is the protests.
Yeah.
So getting the game called off was imperative. And the final point I want to make is, I've seen comparisons made between Chelsea fans and Manchester United fans, and people saying, oh, when Chelsea protested midweek, you know, they were peaceful and they didn't get the game postponed, etc., etc. But there's a difference between that Chelsea's owner and Manchester United's owners. There's a massive difference. Most Chelsea fans, in fact, the majority of them probably like Roman and his ownership.
Mm.
You know, no matter what you say about Roman, Chelsea are competitive. How many league titles have they won since we last won the league? Yet they've probably been through more managers than us. But what does that say?
I'll be shocked if he's ever taken $1 million out of that club. He's put in billion. He put in $1.5 billion into that
Yeah,
club.
it's all big from his own pocket.
Exactly.
They don't have enough revenue to have all those transfers. Their summer window budget is based on what he wants to put into it.
Exactly.
So
Same as Manchester City. And then people question why United fans are getting angry because our stadium is falling apart. Our stadium is surrounded by derelict land. Our owners have taken out billions out of the club. We've got a disjointed transfer budget. We've not had a right winger for 10 years. We've had Antonio Valencia. Phil Jones is still at the club. No, this is why we're angry.
And forget even that. What they did to our club is in the bankers that helped them to take over the club, to leverage the debt. JB Morgan guys, the Woodwards, the Richard Arnolds, right, and the Matt Judges. Those people became the footballing guys in our club. When Ferguson retired, and then Gill followed him, those bankers took control of football. They're not even into football. They're rugby guys. Public school boys who are into rugby. That's who they are. And with zero knowledge of football. That's why on net, Man United have spent over 700 million. Where's that 700 million gone now? Because they wasted it. They wasted that money, and they only ever spent money when we're out of the Champions League. When we're out of the Champions League, they spent money, and the circle goes. When we're in the Champions League, when we got crucial parts of the team and the squad that needs addressing, they don't worry. This is how embarrassing this is. Manchester United's youth teams, Manchester United women's team play outskirts of Manchester. Man City, all their different levels of age groups play across the road from the stadium. They've set up incredible area in the East Line.
The infrastructure is unbelievable.
You have to see it. You have to see it. You have to go there and see it.
You have to go and see it if you live in Manchester.
They've transformed that area of East Manchester. They've transformed it. But
we know why they're doing it. We know they're doing it to sport washing. So their country to go and bomb kids in Yemen, some one of the poorest countries in the world, and they can tell people, oh yeah, Instagrammers, you can go to Dubai and party, even though it's lockdown. That's why they're doing it. It's called sports washing, people. But you know what that means? It's called sports washing. That's what they're doing it for. They don't love Man City. They just got the club on the cheap, and then they got the stadium from the council because that was the Commonwealth Games.
And the council are their best buddy in doing all this kind of.
But I just don't want to make it about them, guys. There's almost 200 of you in here. Please like and share and subscribe to this channel. Irfan, I'm going to come back to you. Yeah. Where do we go from here now? Where do we go from here now?
Let me just say so today, because there's two major points in this whole debate. First thing, if I was to surmise today we won the battle, but we didn't win the war. Never get this right. You have to understand that today was just the battle that was won, and the fact that the game was postponed was us winning the battle. But let's be honest, as we now are speaking, they are now regrouping and thinking what they're going to do, because the Glazers are not going to give away this club just like that. They're making 60, 70 million a year just by sitting there and doing nothing. So they're not going to give it up. Right? Why the whole of the world is watching, why on my Twitter feed, all my politics people, broadcast people, my intellectuals, everyone else I follow on Twitter, they're talking about it, because this is a wider issue of ownership of something the public have vested interest in. Now, the government and the system we live in, the capitalist system, doesn't mind billionaires taking over clubs because they don't care about the average person. How do you think the American guys took over it? For example, we saw today so many 50+1 posters. They were everywhere I looked. I saw a 50+1 poster. And I said to my friends, I said, wow, I'm so happy that people know what the 50+1 rule is. Now, the 50+1 rule is not part of the infrastructure of England. We are a deeply capitalist country. The only country more capitalist than us is America. And if interesting enough, their people are now in our system. The American billionaires are running our clubs. So we go hand in glove, basically. But like I said, we won the battle, but we haven't won the war, right? So the thing is now, they're going to be looking back. They might even put fences in front of the ground next time. They will do everything to try and stop this, right? And the broadcast media like Sky today, and the worst culprit I came across when I was watching was the BBC, because what happens is they get their establishment DNA out and say, oh, those violent people, those violent this and that. When, they've got their agenda, and their agenda is to keep it as the status quo is. They don't care about United, what the ordinary working class people are protesting about. They don't care. It's not. They are oblivious to that. That doesn't even come into their thinking. The Jermaine Genuses, the Pat Nevin and the Muppet Graham Souness, these idiots completely out of touch with normal culture, normal people. So what I'm trying to say to you is that it's being looked at by everywhere, all businesses. Everyone is looking at this Manchester United thing because it's massive, because it's asking the questions with businesses that have got a public interest, part of it, of the whole setup. There's a public interest. Are we going to allow billionaires to just come in a capitalist way and steal it all away? And let's be honest, I can't think of another club that's been bought with £500 million of debt, banking debt on the club. I can't think. I mean, that's why no City aren't complaining on these clubs. Not even Arsenal. We have got the worst of the worst, and the battle lines have just been drawn out today. But having watched it, I love moments like this, because you get to see who is who. Everyone reveals himself. Genius revealed himself. The BBC revealed himself. ITV revealed himself. Everyone reveals himself. So it's fantastic, because we know the people who care about the club, and we know the people who don't give a crap. We know the people who are happy to call protesters yobs. And we know the people who honestly see this, like the Jamie Carragher and the Roy Keane, they're the ones who came out and said, look, no, this is just the start. And so they reveal them true self. So I'm very happy on days like this. But I know we have got a long, long way to go, because the police, Sky Sports are not happy. All the people that lost today, because let's be honest, I even listened to the police inspector, and he ended up looking stupid, because they're obviously looking at him, the law and order part of the country, saying, where were you to stop all this? And obviously they had nobody there. They had about 30 people. They had to bring in police officers from other areas to maintain it. So they look stupid. So they're going to come out and say, oh, violent mobs. The BBC's got this agenda anyway of like louts and yobs. They've got this deeply conservative nature. They weren't there. And then you got Sky did a better job. But let's be honest about this. The interesting thing is, watching everybody today was the best thing, like I said, was the result of the fact it got postponed. I mean, Nuruddin was so happy when he found out the game got postponed. He said, look, now we've actually made a mark. The question is what the next mark is going to be. And the next mark has to be, this is it. You have to keep protesting, but you have to protest with a goal. You have to have a goal. And the goal is, what do I want? And we want the Glazers out. So that is going to be like a trench warfare. It's going to be a battle. Now, I'm worried that will we be able to keep this momentum going, because it has to be something that continues. When you score such a massive goal, like something that's gone worldwide everywhere, where the game's cancelled and it's affected that many people, you now have to think, what's your next strategic move? What can you do again to keep up this level of protest? What can you do? And that is where the fans now have to galvanize themselves and say, okay, right, we scored this amazing goal today, where the whole world had to stop and take note of the fact that the game got postponed. Now you're going to do it again, but it's going to be much harder to do it second time because they're going to be ready for it. They're now going to be ready because the Glazers will be telling the council, Sky, the government, say, look, this is disrupting business. Nothing can disrupt business, and that's the battle. That's where the battle lines are being drawn right now. Disrupting business. Can we disrupt business? Because they don't care about Man United, but they care about business.
Rachel, where do you think the end games? What do you think? If you're for example, just in devil's advocate, if I was trying to get you to get into the heads of the Glazers, I know that's very difficult for you. But if you're sitting in Florida tonight and you're watching this unfold and you've seen that the Man United have made the news, worldwide news, right? It's almost 1 billion, I think. 1 billion people, just under 1 billion people turn up for that game because it's the biggest game. It's the El Clasico of this country.
Yeah.
And that's why it was more than any other time. It was the perfect timing to do it. But if you're thinking them, could you think, you know what? We try to do something that we don't really understand. Our CEO, the guy that we put in charge, has been having in the past 8 years, we've had to let go. We threw him under the bus. Is this worth our while? Or do you think they're going to think, we want our 4 billion? And without our 4 billion, we're here to stay.
You know what? I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think they care at the moment. I think it's a good step. Don't get me wrong. I think that it was great from our point of view just to get the message across. But I think that unless we keep doing it, I don't see how it's going to affect them because we have the momentum right now. But how long is it going to last? Do you know what I mean? Are people going to keep protesting? You know, is the hype at the moment going to stay that way? Basically, if it doesn't, then they're not going to care. Unfortunately, you have to make sure this lasts as long as we possibly can do it before it actually affects them. And to be honest, the first thing they would have looked at is how the sponsors feel about it. You know, how it's going to affect their pockets because that's all they care about, as we said. So at the moment, I don't think they're panicking yet, but I think that as long as the fans keep working together and they stay united, because I think it's shown a lot of. What's the word I'm even looking for?
Unity. Show the unity.
That's the word. Yeah, a lot of unity between the fan base. No one's speaking about the manager. I know a few people are, because they will, but no one's speaking about the manager. No one's speaking about the players. It's all about the club as a whole. So what we need to make sure that we do is stay united and keep going with it, and then keep the pressure upon the Glazers. Because if it just stops, if it just happens, say maybe next week, but maybe not the week after, then it's all for nothing, isn't it? You need to make sure that it keeps going. And like even in the summer, when there aren't many games or any games at Old Trafford, for example, keep it going. Mm-hmm. You know, protest at the Euros if you can, or just do something. Keep going with it. Otherwise, it's just going to be for nothing, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. You know what? Every time Gary Neville speaks, I'm more impressed. It's more of his insight. There's a millionaire. I thought that he might maybe have lost touch with the ordinary man on the street. I know you're shaking your head, Irfan, but on this,
I'm not having it. No, I'm not having it.
He has been absolutely spot on every sense of it on this one. He has today.
It's a bit late, but not that it's late, but this is something that our players should have been doing a few years ago.
Yeah.
When we were calling for it a few years ago. Why is it now that the ESL's happened and they're upset about that now there's all this talk about anti-Glazers? Like, yeah. I agree with what he says. Don't get me wrong, but I'm thinking to myself, where was this a few years ago? Why wasn't this a problem a few years ago? Because all the fans protested while he was playing. You know, when we were winning league titles, we were still protesting, despite what some people like to think. You know, the protest started the day they got there. Do you know what I mean? Again, it's
why
aren't any of them saying it?
Yeah. I'm not hating on Gary Neville. I'm not hating on him, but I'm just saying. I only heard Roy Keane and Jamie Carragher speak about it today, and I saw in an instant that these guys are fans. They like the fans. But Gary Neville, you could see he was sort of jittering. He was sort of like, "What do I do?" Nervous. No. He didn't come out. It didn't come out like it came out. Roy Keane spoke in a fearless manner. Jamie Carragher also spoke in a fearless manner. But when I watched the body language of Gary Neville explain it, you could see he was conflicted. He didn't know what to do, and it revealed that he wasn't fearless. He's a bit scared about it all to speak his mind, because of his job, etc. That's the kind of thing. And let's be honest, that's what I picked up on, and that's why I'm sort of a bit dubious about him so far. I know he did say some good things, but I'm still not fully convinced where he'd be at the end of the day. I'm not. Let's see in a few months' time. That's my point about Gary Neville.
No, because you know what? I genuinely thought he was remorseful. The fact that he came out against Woodward a couple of years ago. He came out about the structure of the football club, but he's never really fully called for the Glazers to go. And genuinely, I think he was shocked. I think he was genuinely shaken, and he was shocked of the fact that they wanted to start this Super League in August, and when they announced it, because as he was breaking, he was speaking genuinely. It wasn't scripted for him by some producer in Sky. It was a genuine emotion to think the football pyramid. He's also been working behind the scenes with a lot of old school former chairmen of football, trying to get a regulatory body to regulate football, because he understood the power the Big Six have in this country. Oli Bubaye early on touched on how much power the Big Six have. And then there's the other 14 clubs and the Big Six. And the Big Six basically determine everything. And he talked about it today. He said it's about this soft power. But when they try to do this, he was like, nah, this ain't happening. This ain't happening. We're just joined by Saeed. Obviously, Saeed wasn't there today at the protest. It was supposed to be for the watch-along with Uncle Robbie. Saeed, talk to us tell us as he was unfolding, as you were in that studio, as you were seeing it on the news, and the news that was coming through on Twitter and all the social medias. Tell us what you're thinking, man.
Can you not hear me? I'm just on road now. Can you not hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Crazy, man. Crazy scenes, man. You know what I mean? We thought the game was going on. I was giving banter to Liverpool fans. You know what I mean? It was going crazy at the minute. But I think this is a victory for the fans today. I think the Glazers are going now, people. I really, really do, man. I think they're going. I know you might think I'm deluded and whatnot, but I told you, Lord, I said to you, this is the start of the end for the Glazers. And I really mean that. I think this is the end for them. They're going to be embarrassed now. They're going to be shell-shocked. And the enormity of how fans have almost come and said, you know what, not on our term, not in our name, Nuruddin, as you say. You know what I mean? And for me, I couldn't believe what I saw today. Going into the stadium, I know for me, by the way, I just want to get in the point that we don't, accept the violence and the criminal damage. But I think for me, what he said today was a fans frustrated for a year in lockdown, not going to the stadium and just going all hell's loose. You know what I mean? And for me, I just think today was the final straw for the fans to say, you know what, let's get our football club back. And I really, really believe this. I think this is the one that gets the Glazers out. If we can just do this for the rest of the season and make sure our voices are heard, don't let them out of the training ground. Let's wait out. Let's march on every single home game we have to the end of the season. March outside. Make sure we're protesting. And I tell you what, mate, they are leaving at the end of the season. Woodward has left. The empire is crumbling one by one. You see this in movies, man. I don't want to talk about movies, but these things happen. The empire crumbles. And you know what? They're leaving bit by bit. They are leaving this football club. And I'm excited today. I'm happy. I'm in hysteria. And I'm just going, for me, the Glazers now have seen the light. They have seen a united fan base against them. Before it was like, oh, well, they spend money. No, everyone is against them. We're all united. And I think, for me, they're going out, man. Glazers are going out.
Yeah, coming back to you, Rachel. Saeed makes the point. Do you think this is the end? Obviously, we touched on it just before. You were saying we got to continue with this. I think you're 100% right. Every one of you who said we need to continue this, because we might have won the war today. You know what I mean? We might have won the battle, but the war continues. And I echo everything Saeed said about protesting till the rest of the season, not buying the merch. I saw bits of news yesterday that was flying around about Adidas not being happy about shirt sales. Obviously, that could be due to the pandemic, because obviously, there's a global recession, you know what I mean, that's coming in different parts of the world and it's coming in different shapes. But believe you me, I'll be outside of that stadium with my banner getting every United fan that's even entertaining to go into that store to buy a shirt, telling them exactly what they're doing, how they're spitting by spending their money, spitting in the history and everything that's great about Man United. I will be doing that. Mark my words, I will be doing that, and I'll be joined by others to do that.
The real acid test is going to be when fans are allowed back in the stadium. Yeah, because if we're hitting 76, 77, 78,000, whatever it may be, the Glazers will just rock on. They'll just, it's not going to affect them.
Mondo, I mean, for example, let me be devilish about this. United by Haaland. All right, let's just make that scenario United by Haaland. Yeah, what do you think that's going to do to the fans? It's going to keep the ones who don't see the big picture. They're going to be happy. They're going to be happy just to quell the protest. That's how they work. You got to understand your enemy. You got to understand the tactics they'll do. They've been fighting this off for 10 years plus, so they know the things to keep the fans quiet. They know the tactics. If they buy a superstar, a lot of the fans are going to keep quiet. So we are up against a very, very tricky opponent, an establishment opponent with the support of the government, the police, the businesses, Sky. Everyone is on their side. That's why this battle is an enormous battle. It's a huge. The war is huge. So I want people to understand that this ain't gonna happen. They're gonna go away straight away. They're not gonna give away 60, 70 million that they earn a year just for doing nothing. They're not gonna just give it up. So Saeed, I disagree with Saeed. Saeed saying that we're on the way. I don't see any signs they're going to go away. You could only say that once you see what they do. We're going to see this week what they do because they'll all be talking. That's when you can assess what's going to happen.
I mean, I genuinely think, Saeed, do you want to come in there if you're about?
Yeah. I understand that, but for me, what I look back to is what have they got left? What have they got left to offer? They've got Woodward who's left. They've got fans who hate them now. Fans who said, at the forum, say, we don't care what you say. We don't care what solution you have. Even if they sign Sancho, whatever, I'm telling you now, man, I'm not giving up. I'm not going to say that's enough. These guys have to go. Because at the end of the day, I think Man United is just more than a football club. We're a community. We're a kind of an institute. You know what I mean? We need to be looked at. Like Barcelona, how they say, more than just a club, you know what I mean? And that's what it does. We're a community, we're a fan base that united. And I feel like for me, I think this is the first step. I understand we're not going to go out, but I just think, what have they got left to give now? What have they got left to do? They can't win over the fans anymore. The fans have said, enough is enough. They've come out in their tens of thousands. These are the match-going fans. I understand people say, well, there's thousands around the world and they're all right. But these are the match-going fans. And these are the ones that are here week in, week out. If you can't turn these ones around, how are you going to turn everyone else around? So, I don't know. I just firmly believe that these guys are going to be going because now it's almost like the last dagger in the heart. And I feel like for me, you can't come after this. You can't come back alive.
Look, there's a saying. It goes, be careful of the poor man if he has his belly's fill, and be careful of the rich man if he becomes hungry. They're the same. Saeed, what they have to offer might not be much, but they have a lot to lose. 60, 70 million pounds is still a lot of money to be doing nothing. A valuation of £4 billion, which is a couple of billion more than what they paid for the place, is a lot. So nobody's just going to walk away from that.
No way.
So the fight is on, and this is for the long haul. Now, you know what? Only God knows, what kind of impact today has, what's going to happen in future. But what is within the power of each individual to do is their choice whether they want to do it or not. If they went and signed Haaland, there's many variables that can still take place. But if you don't help yourself, then nobody's going to help you. That's just in everything in life. So today, the guys went to the stadium. It went a hell of a lot better. I'll to speak for myself. No way did I think that we would set such a precedent in such a high-profile game in the manner that we did and raid the pitch. No way did I expect that. I was thinking, it's a little whatever. Well done for the guys that turned out, but this will be done. We'll watch the game. The fact that it got cancelled is impressive. It's very impressive. So it's up to every individual to do what is within their power, whether it's withholding their money, going, peacefully. You know, Rachel alluded to it earlier. I saw the same pictures. I don't want to see things like that because, you know, this isn't something, don't want to make this United against anybody but the Glazers. Some of those police officers are probably United fans. They're probably happy deep down, some of them, in what they saw. Some of them might be wankers, you know. There's that element in the fan base as well. But the idea is you protest peacefully, non-violently. You don't cooperate. You don't spend your money there. And we go again. You know, you do what you can do. You do what you can do. But if we're going to talk about, one thing I would say I picked up on today was the money involved in English football is the reason English football is what it is today, the most watched league in the world. We attract the players, the managers we can pay, and we have not one team or two teams. There are many teams that can afford to pay and attract quality talent, quality managers. And the geography of the league is difficult. It's not like other leagues. A third of every top team season is against other top opposition. And there are always surprise packages. And this is in large part, guys, whether we agree with it or not is up to you. But I believe due to money. The thing that I want to see is a more equitable distribution of the power that makes decisions. Decisions that affect the whole club.
Agreed.
And that needs to be renegotiated. Now, if you look at Bayern Munich, they have the 50+1 there. Mm-hmm. But Bayern Munich wins the league every single year. And any promising player...
9 years. 9 years.
Well, let me say what I'm saying, bro. Yeah, you're right. 9 years. They win the league every year. And any promising talent that emerges in that league, whether he's national or, you know, from outside the country, is immediately bought by them. So even with 50+1, that's great. I have no issue with that. But I don't want a league that's like that. The reason why I love this league, it's not all about me winning. I don't care whether I win every year or I want to just be there. But the beauty of this league for me personally is how competitive it has become. It's not only the league. You know, we've had 5 teams win this league in the last 6 or 7 years, I think. You have the top 4 race. It's a very difficult season. You know, if you think of who we have to play against, the top 6, it's all 50-50 close games. So this is, part of this league is the money. So I have to concede that.
Yeah, I understand that. But let me say something to you now, right? When the money, right? When you build the monster, it's a Frankenstein, basically, the Frankenstein effect, right? When you build this money and you let these top 6 clubs take all of the power away from the rest of the 14, this was going to happen. This was going to be inevitable. This was always going to be happening. So now there has to be a redress. There has to be some equality. We need more equality and more democracy. To me,
and that's called the middle ground.
51+ is not going to get rid of the capitalism. It's not going to get rid of the money. What it's going to do is, when major decisions of the football clubs are made, the fans will have their say. Rachel,
what you've got to understand is this. Look, listen. What you've got to realize with what you're saying is what we're after is, look at it from the point of view of not only from the fans, because it's not just the fans that are involved in this, it's the fans and the owners. If somebody's going to come and buy Manchester United for £4 billion sterling and then have to share the decision making and not have the final say because they are a 49% shareholder in the club, that becomes a very unattractive proposition. And that really narrows down the candidates who are willing to come and buy the club. But by the same token, if the 51% rule is in place, then at least you will weed out the other Glazers.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. So there's a middle ground to be had. And this is, I think, exactly what the end game I'm looking at is. And in order to get there, you have to force people to actually listen, then come to the negotiating table. And for anyone thinking, what can we do? What you can do is what you are doing. You're not going to pick up and throw cans at police and shit like that. That's not Man United anyways. I'm not telling you that you're all be choir boys. Civil disobedience means, look, I am not going to be obedient to you, but I'm not here to throw punches at you or
Well, the bit
disrespect
that
the
the
law.
cameras
That's
didn't
it.
show you, the bit that the
Yeah.
cameras didn't show you was
I'm
the
not referring. That's not me saying anything about the protest. I'm
No,
just
but
putting it out there.
what I'm just trying to explain is that the bits the camera didn't show you was that
Yeah.
people did civil disobedience, the police and
Yeah.
the authorities and all of the people losing money thought, right, we need to get them out. And people were being and that is like we've been there from some of the people have been there from 1 o'clock this afternoon. And some of them had a couple of beers. And when the police come and come with their over heavy-handed tactics, that's what's going to happen. People were dashing bits of cans and beer on each other as part of a fun and festival. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, guys, because we've gone over an hour now. So I'm going to come to you just with your closing comments. Rachel, what are you hoping? In your heart of heart, what are you hoping?
The Blazers to leave, like everyone else, I guess. I'm not sure on the 50+1 rule. I know a lot of people will say they want it, but it has affected the Bundesliga negatively because basically what it's done is it's allowed Bayern Munich to establish them. Like they were already the biggest club there, right? But it's basically just solidified their place at the top of the pyramid there. So the 50+1 rule for me, it doesn't allow the competition that we spoke about just a moment ago. It won't allow that. It will solidify the top 6 teams who have the most money already, and it will keep them there. So I'm not about this 50+1 rule. When I was reading more into it, I didn't like it, if I'm being honest with you. But yeah, final thing is Blazers out, get them out of the club, and hopefully we can progress without them. And hopefully the fans keep it up because they've done really, really well so far.
Yeah, right. I'm just going to come into that, and I'm going to just try to explain a little bit. So there's about 3 clubs. I think it's Hoffenheim, IP Leipzig, and I forgot the other team. I think it's Wolfsburg or Leverkusen. Wolfsburg and Leverkusen, I think, they're both owned by car companies, especially Leverkusen. They're owned by a car company.
Wolfsburg are owned by VW, I think.
Yeah, VW, right? Now, they are part of the 50+1 rule, but they do it in slightly model. It's slightly different. So they can bring, that's why Wolfsburg, how many years ago was Wolfsburg Wolfsburg was challenging for the league at a certain point because of the investment. Please don't get it twisted. The reason why Bayern Munich are there is because the players want to go to Bayern Munich because they are the most successful and they are the most successful structure in German football, in European football, hands down. That's the reason why they are the most attractive club for fans to go, for players to go to that play in Germany. Another players who play in Europe want to go there because they know the fan base is amazing. The fan base and the club are like this. The support, I've lived in Germany. I was there. Trust me. The way the Bayern Munich fans support their club is second to none. The way their club is run is second to none. That's why the best competition go. Now, coming up to RB Leipzig. RB Leipzig is exactly the same. A business owner who has a big company, Red Bull, yeah, owns IP Leipzig. Now the model is slightly different because the fans, they make decisions with the fans, and some of these cities, especially Leipzig, it's not a footballing culture. They didn't have a big history of having a football club in that history. It was created, so it's almost kind of a new club. So I understand your reservations, Rachel. I understand your reservations, Oli Bumbaye. But we cannot have billionaires from other countries who know zero about football, employing investment bankers who know zero about football, come in and taking the game away as we know it. We were this close. They thought they could get away with it. That's why they bullied Chelsea. Chelsea were never about this Super League. No one Man City, but they thought, oh damn, these big teams are playing each other. We want to be part of that because our players want to be part of that. So there is a balance to be had. To me, there has to be a democracy. There has to be a democratization. Trust me, because the same thing will happen again, and they will come back and they will ruin the game as we know it. Florentino Perez was talking about something similar to the Super Bowl, where you have like 2-hour break. 2-hour break, Beyonce or Jay-Z on the stage for 2 hours. And
but you got to mention the debt, though, the reason why they're doing it as well. Mention the debt.
Of course, to me, the biggest thing is this. Football needs a regulatory body, independent, that can regulate football, right? There are certain things in this country that there has to be regulated because there's so much public interest. Now, Man United, Liverpool, they're the biggest clubs in the world in terms of the British or the English teams because of the history and tradition and culture, working class northern cities. This is where exactly the same, where Dortmund and Schalke are one of the most successful. They are northern cities in Germany, and that's what they are. Bayern Munich, they're the crown of Bavaria. Same Barcelona, the crown of Catalonia. Certain regions, that is what they're proud of. The reason why Bayern Munich are successful is because everybody wants to go there. But I want to make this point. The power is being taken by this top six. The 51+1 rule, if it came in or something similar, one big thing cannot happen again for me is that a debt leverage of 500 million that was used to take over Man United can never happen again. Because like Mundo said earlier on, it's an institution that's part of the heritage and culture of this country. That's why people come all from different parts of the world. When we go traveling, people go, Manchester United. That's what they say. I went to Cuba. One guy was like, Manchester. Oh, now they have another team, City. And I was like, and then it's right. I was like, he didn't just say United. He said, oh, there's another team now called City. And he wanted to know about City and what their history is. But I want to make this clear.
Did you tell him?
The biggest thing that football, the imbalance, like Oli Bumbaye said, it's been going on far too long. I don't think it will ever take away the competitive edge. Because one thing I will tell you, every football fan in this country loves the fact that there's promotion and there is regulation, and will know that there is competitive games that the bottom of the league, like Sheffield United can go to Old Trafford and beat Man United. That will not be taken away because football is being regulated. Now, to me, a European sanctioned, right, wage cap has to come in as well. Because a lot of these teams, the reason why Real Madrid and Barcelona cannot go and spend money is because it's getting out of hand. And also the viruses, the leeches that are the agents also need to be stopped. Because how can you get paid £40 million for taking a player from one club to another club? That should not be. Wages need to be capped. Agent fees needs to be capped.
Yeah.
And it has to be a balance. And we're asking for more democracy. We're not asking to stop capitalism. We're just asking fans to participate. Because for far too long, fans have stood on the side and took it, and took it, and took it, and took it. Look up. Nearly Bolton Wanderers nearly went out of business. Bury. Historical club if you're from Greater Manchester. If you're in Manchester, Bury FC, one of the historic clubs. This is going to happen, and the vultures and the leeches are not going to stop. They want to put this game, sell it on apps, Netflix, Disney, Amazon, whatever you want to call it. They want to change the game as we know it. They want to have halftime performances like the Super Bowl. We're not, like Mundo said, we don't go to America and go, let's Britannize, Britannize your culture. Yeah. They want to Americanize the culture in this country. And exactly what you said, Olimpo Baye. But of this country want to work hard, and that's what Busby said. Football's for the fans. And the history of Man United goes along with the history of working class culture in this country.
But you just said,
as we wrap it up, and then Irfan.
You too, man.
Yeah, Mundo, go on.
Yeah, go.
Your last point.
I mean, some good stuff's been said today. I don't disagree with what anyone said. I just think that this is just the beginning of a long, long journey. I don't think it's as simple as saying, oh, there's a protest today and the Glazers are going to sell up. That's just a pipe dream. Because, let's be honest, they've been to Old Trafford once in the last 10 years. So they're not even coming here anyway. They're just going to continue what they've been doing, which is staying in the States, cashing in their chips every now and again, pulling out their dividends, and that's it. You've got to hit them in the pocket. That's where they've got to be hit. In terms of the structure, of football. And well, it needs to be a whole revamp, not just of club ownership. We're talking about FIFA, UEFA. But we know that money talks. Money talks. So the chance of that happening is very remote. And the only thing is, we're in a dog-eat-dog world, and now UEFA and FIFA know that there are certain clubs in certain countries that are coming after them. And for me, this is not done. This ESL stuff is not done. Right? It's going to come. This is what we're witnessing now. Is a football civil war. That's what's broken out. A football civil war at the top of the game between UEFA, FIFA, and the biggest clubs in England, Spain, Italy, and this is just the beginning. And what we need to do is, the only way to stop this civil war is to get rid of those owners, bring in a new structure, regulator for our football to prevent that from happening. Because if we don't do something, then it's just going to implode on itself. Because these massive behemoths within football, who govern football, who run our clubs, they are now fighting it out for they want the biggest purse. It's almost like, even the analogy is like, it's like a boxing match, and you've got like Pacquiao, Mayweather fighting over. The fight's never going to get on because they're both fighting who wants the biggest purse, and that's what's happening at the moment. And what it does is it spoils the entertainment, because we want to watch football. We're not concerned about the money. We just want to watch football with fans. But they're not interested in that anymore. Football is a byproduct of all the other commercial stuff. Football is like, it's, if they could take football out of it, they would. If they could get rid of the game, they wouldn't even have a game of football. They wouldn't even have a 90-minute game of football. As you said, they're thinking about bringing in entertainment and cutting down. I think Perez is saying, let's shorten the halves and bringing in entertainment. I mean, how long is an American football game if you take out all the adverts and everything else? It's like 40 minutes or something. It's like really short. So the sport is just an inconvenience to their main goal, which is the money. And just the final point on the Glazers, they're not even good business people either. I mean, that's a myth. That is an absolute myth, because good business people are not spending £1 billion. They spent £1 billion on the football side of things. And what have they achieved for that £1 billion? That's not good financial sense what they've done. Other people who have invested, I mean, I hate saying this, going back to City and Chelsea. They've invested big money in their team. But look at Chelsea's squad compared to our squad. Look what Chelsea have won in the last 10 years in comparison to Manchester United. They're in the Champions League semi-final. We're talking about Europa League second-rate tournament semi-final.
Mondo, even Leicester squad, even look at
Mondo,
Leicester.
that's because they don't have bankers who know nothing about football running their club.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right. I mean, look, this is the thing. Look, the European Super League, let's be honest, right? Let's just get to that. That Real Madrid, Barcelona, Juventus, Man United, debt, massive debts. What can we do to get out of the debt? We'll do Super League, yeah? They all know, like Stan Kroenke at Arsenal knows, that the revenue of the supporter is minuscule. It doesn't affect them. The revenue that's made from the fans is not a lot of money in the Graham's model of the football club. It's all about the TV revenue, which get the advertisers in, and that's why they did it. They did it because they thought it's a quick way of getting out of our debt. We're in massive debt, okay? And like I said, vulture capitalism, which is the system we live in, allows this to happen, okay? So Boris Johnson has no problem with it. Now the problem for us is, like, where do we go from here? How does the average fan affect this situation? Like I said, now I know for a fact that these guys are not going to give up the cash cow. Would you give up the cash cow when you've bought one of the most famous brands in the world? You don't have to do anything, and it just keeps making money from you. You own it, and you're hoping to sell it, for $5 billion or whatever. You're not going to give it up. You're not. Their dad worked hard to steal this club, in a dodgy way with the investment bank money that Woodward provided via J.P. Morgan. They're not going to give it up. They are not going to give it up. You have to try and get into the head of business on Israel, what the Palestinians are trying to do. Whenever you hurt the pocket that's when people have to take notice. So it has to be an everyday boycott Glazers out campaign every single day. And the fans, we as fans, need to get organized as a major group that signs up to this boycott campaign and is invested in it every single day in numbers. And for example, we need to go and have our goal to say, we want to get them out and this is what we want. We want to democratize the club, as like you said. But like I said, it's only going to happen if we're organized and we make moves like today continuously to hurt them in the pocket, to hurt the sponsors, to hurt the advertisers, to say, look, if we have to do something, we have to accommodate the fans, we have to democratize, right? Or not going to go anywhere. And it's the only way. So this, like I said, this war is long term. It's not short term. It's not short term at all because they're not going to give up the cash cow. So like I said, I'm very, very happy today because today was the first big move I can think of in this Glazers Out campaign. It was the first big one. I mean, it's even Match and Day. They're all talking about it at the moment. You know, everyone's talking about it. But let's just see what happens. But I want everyone to understand the problem. Without understanding the problem, you'll never find a solution. So we need to get organized. Some of us have got solutions. Look, we disagreed about 50+1, but I still think 50+1 is easily the best way to go for us, for the British League. But Germany is very, very different as a economic culture compared to Britain. We are much, much more like America, where it's a free-for-all. You do what you want. You don't care about the ordinary person. So we have to get that. And I want the fans to, and the viewers listening, to sort of read up and understand what is at play here. It's a challenge of, is business, does it have to be ethical? Does it have to have a morality to business? That's what we're talking about here, because football fans are the heart and bread of the inner city working class community. That's what they are. And like I said, no one cared about them before, but occasionally in life, people do fight back. And you think about how we got the vote, how all these things happen in life. It's occasionally when the working class got together or the ordinary people got together and said, like, no, we're going to stand back to this. And that's how we win. They win more than us, but we win occasionally, and we win big because we win to keep the things that we want. And that's all it comes down to.
Right, I'd like to thank every one of you who came down today, people. I cannot thank you enough, honestly. It made me feel very emotional today, being there, seeing that unite as fans all coming together and uniting one goal. We've all seen it. You know, the craziest thing what Mundo said, just go back to that, the fact that they're not proper business people. They're clumsy. All they had to do was put a structure in. And you know what? If the club's been successful, if we're still in debt and they pay down the debt and they put into the infrastructure, even diehards like me would have been like, okay, well, I can't complain about that because I complained about that and they've done something about that. Well, I complained about that, they've done something about that. But they haven't. They're vultures. That's what they understand. And the Air fans summed it up, and it's Rachel, you summed it up as well. Today, to me, I'm going to sum it up and say the gloves came off. In terms of the fans, the gloves came off today. And now the ball is in their court. The Glazers' court. All I'm saying to you is that watch out, people, because we know where their offices are, and this is going to be a prolonged fight, and we know what the fans are out there, and everybody's enthusiastic to do something. We cannot let this opportunity go by us. But I just want to give a shout out. So, Rachel, let them know where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at the Devil's Avocado, and you can find me on the First XI YouTube channel.
Mighty, where they can find you, Mundo?
Just on Twitter at Mighty Mundo.
Fan?
Twitter, Fan Rainey, Twitter.
Okay. Oli Bumbaye, where can they find you?
You're going to find me watching Braveheart after all this, man.
Brilliant. And you know, I'm your Mr. Structure. I've been banging on about this for a long, long time, people. That's why I was emotional today, because when that game's postponed, to me, it said a lot more. The fans are finally seeing it. The fans are finally seeing it. For a lot of us, what a lot of us have been screaming for 15 to 16 years, that these people don't give an absolute damn. And well done to every one of you who signed that petition, because next week or the week after, the government will have to definitely debate this. I know Boris Johnson don't care about working class people or working people, but I know he's a populist. And I know that if he can win votes and try to say, oh, I need to sort the game out, you know, get the fans on side, he will do it. So well done to everybody. Thank you so much for all of you for the support here. Like I said, this is the headquarters of the Anti-Glazer. And all I can say is that, please, those of you who are in different countries, let's keep this going. Enough is enough. Keep tweeting Glazers out. whatever Glazers got to go. Use all the different hashtags. Keep it simple, but please spread the word. Spread the word. Once the gloves are off, we cannot now go back into our corner and think, right, we're not going to fight. We're going to have to continue this. And we're going to have to continue this in a different ways. Some days maybe we can't protest. Some days maybe we're going to educate other fans about not buying merchandise, hitting them, like Irfan said, in the pocket, like Mundo said, like Oli Bumbaye said, like Rachel said, hitting them where it hurts. Then they will leave. But the next owners, like Mundo said, will have to realize you cannot mess with Man United fans. Because today, trust me, we are headline news globally. And 1 billion fans would have tuned in to watch that game. And all of the advertisers from both clubs would have been on that today. But no. The last time that a game got cancelled was on the terrorism threat. Because somebody, I think, they did something. I think they tried to simulate in case of what terrorism attack. And then somebody left something inside
the game, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the game got cancelled. So that's the last time a game got cancelled. But fans won today for me. Legacy fans won. Glazers nil. You've all been amazing. Please hit a like on your way out. Hit a like it's the Glazers face, guys. Hit a like, even though I'm not condoning violence, but hit that like button like it's the Glazers face. And subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Share the channel because we cannot build this community without you, Therapy Army. And Therapy Army today was out in full force. So thank you so much. Peace, love, light, always. Peace.